Welcome to the Green Vision Summit and Expo in Malta. This is a huge event where we have 3 days full of fantastic speakers.
They're like, do more.
It's only 7.5.
Thinking was back then.
It brings us great joy to gather global leaders, policymakers, activists, politicians and industry experts to address the urgent challenge of climate change and seek sustainable solutions for a better future.
Hi there, I'm Marc Buckley, an ecological economist, regenerative futurist, and solar punk, with a passion for exploring the infinite possibilities of generative AI. Back on June 20th, 2022, a major incident occurred. Blake Lamond, a top-tier executive at Google, announced that their creation, Lambda AI, had become sentient. This claim had been hinted at before, but this time it was firm. The outcome? A storm of debate and ultimately his departure from Google. What's truly intriguing here isn't the discussion about AI sentience, but why a person would risk everything, livelihood, income, even health insurance, for the progression of technology. It's important to remember that other forms of sentience have been recognized in the natural world, in bees, animals, plants, fungi, throughout scientific history, long before humans even appeared on Earth. However, the debate around AI seems to overshadow our precious biodiversity. The real question I'd like to ask you is, what does a world that works for everyone look like to you? This question has been circulating for over 70 years, and it's the one we need to tackle today. Now let's welcome the real Marc Buckley to continue this enlightening conversation with you.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here, and we're going to have a fun time. So we're going to talk about things. This isn't a normal keynote. Well, as you can see, I used AI, artificial intelligence, and technology because we're in a world of exponential technology. But did you know we're in a world of exponential life? Our world is moving faster than ever before. And that's why sustainability, sustainable development, environment, economics, tourism is so important. All that we just heard about is so vital. 2024, it's unbelievable that we've made it this far. And we're going to go and answer the very first question that my AI spoke to you about. It's not about sentience of artificial intelligence, how far we've come. It's truly about, do you know what does a world that works for everyone look like for you? That is a social experiment that I have been running for approximately 7 years now, and I've asked over 3,500 people on my podcast via video recording, what does a world that works for everyone look like for you? There's been authors, speakers, a lot of people in sustainability, a lot of people from the UN, a lot of politicians, a few people who are here in the audience. I've asked this. And what I've realized over time is that people start to stutter. They start to sweat. They don't know the answer. They're like, can I have some time to think about the answer? What does a world that works for everyone look like? The reason I recorded it is I thought I want to have about 100, maybe 50 to 100 videos, and then I would do a nice compilation video, and we'd have this aha moment. What does a world that works for everyone look like? And then I could show this video to you and say, there we go. We know the answer. Let's go. Let's do it. I'm sorry to say, out of the 3,500 plus people that I asked, only about 7 people got a kind of a similar answer. The rest of them all had a different answer or didn't know. And if I asked people twice in the same day, they always give me 2 different answers. If I asked people over a month and a year, they always gave me a different answer. So then I thought, I'm going to ask ChatGPT. And it immediately gave me an answer. And the way you know ChatGPT, for some of those, at the bottom is a regenerate button. I love that word, regenerate. It's like a refresh button. It gives you a different answer. I hit that button 120 times, and it was always the same answer. And I thought, this is broken. Something's wrong. It's got to give me a different answer. So then I asked other friends around the world and other countries. I said, could you do that? And they got the same answer too. So the question is, why do 3,500 plus people not know this answer, but ChatGPT does? And more importantly, did we domesticate technology or artificial intelligence, or did it domesticate us? That's really important to think about, because it knows the answer. Now there's newer versions, ChatGPT 4 Plus, and I don't know what version they're on now. And the answer is pretty much the same. It's just more detailed. It breaks it down into bullet points on that. So I want you to know that's a 70-year-old question. 70 years old is that question. What does a world that works for everyone look like for you? And it comes from this man. He wrote a bunch of books. He's a polymath and architect. His name's R. Buckminster Fuller. He wrote the operating manual for Spaceship Earth. Well, what does that mean? He wrote a book, operating manual for Spaceship Earth. Wow, I didn't even know that existed. In the inside of this cover, this book was written in 1969. He wrote his answer to that question. Oh, here it is. He built the geodescent dome, 1967, at the World's Fair. That's this image. So this is the expo in Montreal, Canada, at the World's Fair. And he built this geodescent dome. And I excited as we pulled in, there's a geodescent dome right in front of this building. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Buckminster Fuller must have been here. But in 1967, he not only built that, but at the World's Fair were all these cultures and people from around the world. And those who just spoke about the tourism office, all the tourism agencies in all the world were at the World's Expo in Montreal, Canada at that time, the World's Fair. And his answer to that question was, to make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time through spontaneous cooperation without the ecological offense or disadvantage of anyone. That's unbelievable. So what that is called is a why. It's called a why. In 1967, R. Buckminster Fuller had a why. But his why wasn't to be the best architect in the world or to be a billionaire or a millionaire. His why was for the entire planet. Can you imagine that? Can you believe that? It's unheard of that he wanted the world to work for 100% of humanity. And he did this thing called the World Game. And in that dome at the World's Fair, they played this World Game. And they tried to answer this question from all cultures, all people who were at the World's Fair, to try to answer that question. And in the United Nations, at the World Economic Forum, and all other international organizations, we've been doing that for about 70 years. This is my new book that is just coming out May 12th, so next week, in a couple weeks. And it's about leadership for the future. It's published by Mormon Publishing. It's a yearbook of 100 chief sustainability officers that talk about sustainability. So I wanted to give you this vision of what a world that works for everyone looks like and talk to you about evolution and exponential growth and how quickly our world is growing and moving. But I really want this to be not a typical keynote, a deep dive. I want to teach you some things that those ministers, those people who aren't here, that next time you are in their presence or in anybody's presence that's talking about sustainability, environmental, social governance, about sustainable development, that you will be an expert and know what to talk about. I heard the word sustainability and goals and things a lot of times before I got up on this stage, but they were all wrong. None of those are the answers to what the future and what sustainability means. And so we're going to take a little bit of deeper dive. This was Forbes' top jobs in 2030. So there's all sorts of unbelievable cool jobs, urban biodiversity ranger, organic stylist, seaweed farmer. And these are jobs and people who are thinking well into the future. What does their evolution of their job look like? What will their work look like? Where will they live? What will they do? But when I hear somebody talk about tourism or about certain things in politics, it seems like not much is changing in the future. Oh, we'll have a little bit of AI and we're getting a bunch more tourists. But I don't see the evolution of tourism into regenerative tourism. I don't see the evolution of how we live progressing, moving forward so that we understand where we're truly going. So before we go any further, I want to give you the master learning, the 3 principles of sustainability. And most people don't even know these. They think I mean the 3 dimensions of sustainability, or they think that I mean the triple bottom line. But we're going to go through this rather quickly. There's 3 principles of sustainability. The first one is economics. The second one is innovation. And the third one is the futures. But just so you're not misled, I'm not talking about the 3 dimensions or the triple bottom line. How many have heard of the people, planet, profit? Well, that is really old. It's been around for almost 30 years now. And, you've seen these charts, people, planet, profit. This is from Thailand. That's why you probably can't read it unless you can read Thai. But this was an article done last year, even though I think the date's off on this because of Google Translate. But it was an article that was written last year talking about the triple bottom line. A lot of companies, organizations, politicians, countries, governments are putting in their annual report this discussion of the triple bottom line. But I guess they didn't get the memo. The triple bottom line was an advancement from this guy. For 500 years, this Franciscan friar came up with a single bottom line accounting principle and the double line accounting principle. And so we use those accounting principles in our world for 500 years. And then John Elkington came along, and he's the one who came up with the triple bottom line. But what most people don't understand or never got the memo is in 2018, John Elkington recalled the triple bottom line. So when I see people who talk about that or write about it, I know that they're greenwashing. I know that they're bullshitting us. I know that they don't have a clue what sustainability is or the triple bottom line or know any of the 3 principles of sustainability. And so I'm telling you, when you hear triple bottom line and all this, it was recalled because John Elkington was at a meeting with the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, and they were using the triple bottom line as a single line accounting principle only concerned about the profit. They didn't care about the environment, and they sure as hell didn't care about people. And he got pissed off. And so the next day he left and wrote in the Harvard Business Review, 25-year mark at 2018, he says, I'm recalling the triple bottom line. But what happens when you recall a product? First of all, this is only the second time in human history that any sustainable product or thing has been recalled. The first time was an agriculture thing with chemicals that we really didn't hear about. And the second time is this time. Never before have there been a recall on something sustainable. Well, John Elkington did it, so that's why it was very important. But when you recall something, you fix it, right? And then you put out a new version. If it's a car, if it's a product, you fix what was wrong and put it back out there. Well, John Elkington did that. Great. And his recall that he came back out with, he released the new triple bottom line, and it's the 3 R's. Responsibility, resilience, and regeneration. That's the new triple bottom line, or the 3 R's. And you know why I'm so happy and excited to tell you about it? It's impossible to greenwash. If a company or organization or country says, we're the new triple bottom line, responsibility, resilience, regeneration, and they're greenwashing, guess what? Within minutes to hours to days to months, no longer than a year, you will know that was bullshit. Because they won't have responsibility, they won't have resilience, and they won't have regeneration. So when the numbers of the triple bottom line accounting principle comes to fruition, you'll know it was all fake. And you'll see it in how their organization functions. And so that's why it's such a wonderful thing that's come out. And he wrote a book, it's called Green Swans. I showed it to you in the other slide. We're going to talk about the 3 principles of sustainability. Now, I know this is a heavy text slide, and I only really have it here to kind of nudge me to, because it's very new knowledge that I want to give to you. We have kind of separated ourselves from sustainability. And there's this really nice line in here. In the 21st century, the well-being and even survival of humanity depends crucially on our ecological literacy, our ability to understand the basic principles of ecology, the principles of sustainability, and to live accordingly. This means that ecological literacy must become a critical skill for politicians, business leaders, and professionals in all spheres of life, and should be the most important part of education, especially at the university level, where certain kinds of knowledge and certain values are taught to the leaders of tomorrow. And then we talk about ecological literacy, we talk about systems thinking, but in reality, what we all need to learn, and that's what I want to give you this education, is we need to learn to think in systems, that it's not just Malta, it's not just the EU, it's the entire earth. And what we do here on Malta and what people do who come to Malta has a ripple effect all around the world. We need that ecological literacy, we need regenerative literacy, and intergenerational justice, and a vision where we're going in the future. That means 7 generations into the future, we need to be thinking what's going on and what the vision is. That's why that question from 70 years ago, what does a world that works for everyone look like for you? We need to be thinking not just for us to get us to retirement or till we die. We need to think 7 generations in the future for everybody visiting Malta, everybody visiting the European Union, everybody visiting our places, what does the future look like? What does our world look like? And then this is why I want to talk about the 3 principles of sustainability, and I'm also not going to read all of this for you, but sustainability in ecosystems as well as in human societies is not an individual property, but it is property of an entire web of relationships. It involves the whole community, and sustainable human community interacts with other communities, human and non-human, in ways that enable them to live and develop according to their nature. Some say that sustainability is an old concept and that we need to go beyond it. We need to be regenerative. What they do not understand, that sustainability means sustaining life, which is being regenerative, because life itself is fundamentally regenerative. This is a very beautiful and an important idea. In this context where we're here, we speak about sustainability in the context of work. And that happens a lot because we think, our work needs to be more sustainable. Let me clarify a little bit about work and sustainability being an add-on or just a job function. We have a sustainability officer, we have a chief sustainability officer, we have an environmental officer, we have someone who takes care of ESG, someone who takes care of the natural capital. For many years, even I was deluded of the trap and it taught the idea of this work-life balance. I want you to know that's bullshit. There is no work-life balance. Sustainability is about life. It's about sustaining life into the future. And that's why I wanted to really get into the 3 principles of sustainability. Nature is a totally efficient, self-regenerative system. If we discover the laws that govern that system, live synergetically with them, sustainability will follow and humankind will be a success. That was also from our Buckminster Fuller. So I know many of you have heard this, work-life balance. If you're one person at work and you're another person in life, I'm sorry to tell you, you're probably schizophrenic, bipolar, you're on the verge of burnout, personality disorder. You can't be 2 people. You can't prepare on your weekends to go to work and be one person on the weekend or on vacation. And you can't be someone else at work that you're not at home. Those 2 are one. There's only life. So really, this work-life balance is just pure bullshit. Don't get into that trap. Let me tell you this. If your life is going good at home, you just got married, you're just building a house, you are having a baby, your family life's going well, you're really happy, your marriage is going super, and then at work, you just got promoted, you got a raise, which is going to help you to pay for that family and the new house and the baby and the diapers and that life. What happens is life is here, it's all inclusive. So if you make some progress in a couple steps in your life and things are going well, and then at work, you're here at life, and at work, you're another person and you're making progress towards work, actually, you haven't gone anywhere. You're just right here in the middle. Because there is only life. We're not in the business of business. We're in the business of life. And if you think that any tourism, any government, any policies, any organization in this room is in the business of business, boy, you better hang up your shingle. You better stop. because you're in the business of life. You're in the business to develop and make sure life and our future is much better than it is today, and that we're sustainably progressing and developing towards the future. There is only life. It's this regenerative evolution. And so we're going to talk about sustainable development and a little bit even more about sustainability, but we're on this development evolution of how we live life. I wrote the Sustainable Development Goal Manifesto for the United Nations, and I'm very proud of it. I wrote it for a specific reason, to give people a vision of what a world looks like in the future. But I get a lot of feedback. Oh, that Sustainable Development Goals are Klaus Schwab conspiracy theory. They want to take over. It's a new world order. That's all baloney. Because people don't really know what it is. So the core three principles, people say, this isn't people, planet, and profit. Why is economy or economics at the very top of the three principles of sustainability? Well, as an activist or as an environmentalist, you can't just bitch and moan and complain about capitalism, extractive economies, GDP, growth, all the bad economic models. You actually have to know what economic models are better that can replace the bad economic models. So it's not just good enough to complain about the bad economic models. And then the second one is innovations or impact or transformative impact innovations for purpose. And I want you to know, no, it's not the new delivery app. It's not the new AI Hey Jen creator that makes Mark talk in an avatar. Those are innovations that are entertainment or fun. I'm talking about transformative impact innovations that change and transform humanity. Never before in human history have we went from one age or epoch to the other without innovations. The pneumatic tire, the steam engine, the printing press, all those innovations transform the way we live on our world. And that's why innovations are important. And the last one is the future, and that's that vision I started with. What does a world that works for everyone look like for you? If you don't have a vision of a regenerative or a sustainable future, how do you expect to get there? So now I'm going to teach you a little bit about the exponential and evolution of things that people misunderstand. I can take any sustainable, regenerative, environmentally friendly, ecological, environmental, social governance business model and put it head to head with any capitalistic, extractive, normal business model. And guess who will win? I will win. The world will win. The earth will win because it's a better model. And part of that core principle of why it's a better model is 1 + 1 never ever equals 2. It's always what we call a super exponential. In all living systems, biology, ecology, environment, and life, living systems, we're a living system. 1 + 1 never equals 2. It's a super exponential. It's super abundant, and it verges on quantum tunneling. And that comes from several books. Nicholas Stern wrote the Stern Review report, talked about how the only hesitation for people who hesitate to go sustainable or to be regenerative or to go to environmental social governance is that they didn't do it sooner because it's a better business model. It's a better life model. It functions how life works. And then symbiosis. Symbiosis is an ecological phenomenon, and it is the fastest form, the world's most advanced form of what we call evolutionary innovation, and it's a super exponential. It goes to quantum tunneling. All life works in symbiosis. That term comes from Lynn Margulis, and This is one of her books here, Symbiosis as a Source of Evolutionary Innovation. She was a female scientist that turned the scientific community on its head, and she said, our world doesn't work, and we've misunderstood what Darwin meant with natural selection or survival of the fittest. Our world doesn't work in competition, severe competition, and natural selection, survival of the fittest, only the strong survive. She said the way our world works and has always worked is in symbiosis, in cooperation and collaboration one with another. And we harness that method, we will be super abundant. This other book is from Glenn Albrecht. It's called Earth Emotions. He coined the term symbiosis. And really, it came from an old Russian scientist that spoke about symbiosis, symbiogenesis, way back in the 1890s. And then Lynn Margulis, that's her, she wrote numerous books about the symbiotic earth and symbiosis and how everything in our world works on this principle of symbiosis. 1 + 1 never, ever, ever will equal 2. And when we put sustainability in work and we reduce human beings, we use reductionism of human beings to their lowest common denominator, and we mechanize humans at work. You punch in at this time, then's your coffee break, then's your lunch break, then you punch out here. This is when you go on vacation. You can only do this. Get permission to do that. When we use reductionism, mechanization of humans, that's not how life works. And that's why your model will never be abundant and successful, because your job and your work doesn't care about your life. They only care about their life and their company. But when they take the principles of sustainability and regeneration into the process, they become super abundant. And so that's where we come with this term. We're in the Anthropocene and we need to go to the Symbiocene. So now we've had all sorts of disasters. Coronavirus, resource crisis, climate crisis, biodiversity, human extinction crisis. And then here's a kind of a scale of things. Right here's this brown kind of thing is a dust particle. And at that end is a human hair. And at the very, almost to the bottom, this red one is the coronavirus. The coronavirus was a very small thing, but disrupted our entire world. Small things can have a big influence on our entire planet. And the reason that is we're all star dust, star stuff. And that comes from Carl Sagan. He said this to us, and basically the basic elements of life are in our bodies. Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. Those are the basic elements of life in our body, but they're also the basic elements of star stuff, stardust. This is the periodic table, so to say, of star stuff. More than 90% of our bodies are made up of star stuff, the basic elements of life. Well, what does that mean when we're talking about sustainability? You sprang up from this earth, and the nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies, were all made in the interiors of collapsing stars. We are all made of star stuff. This is our Earth from outer space. It's the Earthrise vision. This is an overview effect, or this cosmic perspective. But I really want you to know, none of us got dropped off on a spaceship Malta, spaceship Germany, spaceship America on this planet. We actually crawled out of the primordial soup of this earth. We are star stuff, but more importantly, we are the earth. We are part of this earth. Without regeneration, without those basic elements, we wouldn't exist. We would not be here. But yet we discount sustainability as an accounting principle. And that's just the wrong way. I want you to connect yourself intrinsically to this picture, because that picture is called the blue marble. And every day, this innovation and technology gives us the heartbeat, the pulse, the lifeblood of our planet. It tells us exactly what's going on. It's innovation. Had we not gone to the moon, looked at the stars, we wouldn't even know all this connection to our own planet. That's when the environmental movement and all these things started. This is a timeline of our Earth birth. It starts with bacteria. The first life on Earth was bacteria. And it goes clear to the present day, and you see these pockets. Those are mass destructions. And the last one is when the asteroid hit the Yucatan Peninsula and wiped out the dinosaurs, which paved the way for us to come on the stage. But I show you this because of this bacteria. This is the bacteria tree of life, and we didn't even discover it until 2015. That top right area, the purple section, that was the section we discovered in 2015. And guess where that's at? In our stomachs, on our skin, on our body. You know why? Because we crawled out of the primordial soup of this earth. That's why. We have bacteria and microbes and fungus all over our body. And if we didn't, we wouldn't be alive. We wouldn't regenerate. We wouldn't be able to evolve. We have less than 30 trillion human cells in our body just below the knee. But the rest are microbial cells. Microbial genes are just over 2 million, or just around 2 million. But guess what? Human gene cells, just the tip of the toe. We are an ecosystem. Our bodies are an ecosystem. We're intrinsically connected to this earth.
Soil is a living miracle. In one handful of soil, there are more organisms than there are humans on Earth. And we are only beginning to understand this vast network of beings right beneath our feet. We rely on healthy soil for 95% of what we eat. Yet, we take it for granted. Thousands of years of plowing, deforestation, and erosion have left our soils in dire
racial, sexual, and religious chauvinism, and to rabid nationalist fervor are beginning not to work. A new consciousness is developing which sees the earth as a single organism and recognizes that an organism at war with itself is doomed. We are one planet.
That was Carl Sagan. That was on his show, The Cosmos. It's true. There's a growing consciousness that sees the earth as a single organism. And by fighting and dividing this organism, we're doomed. We need to realize we're part of this bigger ecosystem, this organism of life. We need symbionts, and they need us. The symbionts in our gut, in our body, in our soils. We need them, and they need us for our survival. No form of life have ever existed without bacteria. Complex biological reality. That's just reality.
We all feel on edge, because that's exactly where we are. But there is hope. Right now, technologies are converging deep in the foundations of our civilization. Over the coming decade, they will disrupt the world as we know it and open a window of extraordinary opportunity. We could end poverty and inequality, repair our planet, and free ourselves from conflict. But there's a catch. If we fail to see what's coming, things could go bad. At Rethink X, we've developed a lens to see what's really happening. Change doesn't travel in a straight line. It ripples and cascades. After long periods of stability, big change happens fast. This is true in every system, from cells to industries, and even civilizations. Throughout history, every civilization has been built on the same 5 foundational sectors: information, energy, transport, food, and materials. When technologies disrupt any of these, change ripples and cascades, challenging our rules, systems, and even our mindsets. Our ancestors developed leading civilizations by harnessing these disruptions, yet each breakthrough only allowed us to become more advanced at extracting scarce resources. In the age of extraction, humanity is forced to create unequal systems to remain competitive and expand beyond our limits to survive. It is a tragic story that repeats, always ending in a dark age. Until now. For the first time in history, as our old world collapses, we have a chance to break through. Today, all 5 foundational sectors are being disrupted at once, creating new ways of producing everything we need. The smartphone became our new printing press, transforming how we connect, vote, and travel. Solar, wind, and battery will allow us to create our own energy. We're hacking biology so communities can make their own food and materials. Meanwhile, AI, robotics, and nanotechnology will allow us to build most of what we need at a fraction of the cost. Multiplied together, these creation age technologies mean we no longer have to extract scarce resources. Everyone can create what they need to live a good life. Exploitation and scarcity can be replaced by freedom and superabundance. But these new technologies will accelerate the collapse of the old. Trapped in tunnel vision, like our ancestors, we cling to failing systems, applying band-aid solutions, which seals our fate. Only a new lens can reveal the possibility space that is opening. This is what allows us to rethink everything. Our mindsets, institutions, and ultimately, ourselves. We need a new generation of rethinkers to bring a new lens to the world. If we do, we will create a new chapter for humanity, one that no previous civilization has ever experienced. We call it the Age of Freedom.
So what is development? Well, there's 2 types. There's inner development for mental, physical, emotional. There's also the inner development goals. And then there's outer development, the built environment, infrastructure. We're going to focus mainly on the outer development. It's the built environment, it's infrastructure, it's city, country, state scale, it's residential, commercial, hospitals, schools, utilities, and the basic resources of humanity. It's how we live. Do we have running water, clean sanitation? Do we have energy? That's what development is. But it's even more. It's really this built environment, the construction of our infrastructures, on how we live in the world. Isn't that part of evolution, how we interact? So when we ask ourselves, what is development, just the core outer development, we have to realize that around the world, there's some disparaging differences. But development is an economy. So on the three principles of sustainability, what was the top line? Economics. Development is an economy. It's the built environment. And from 2015 to 2030, we know for a fact that it's an 89 trillion US dollar economy. It's the built environment, or what we call business as usual. It's a high carbon scenario. It means we build and develop the way we've built since the Industrial Revolution. Very wasteful, lots of emissions, lots of resource use. Sometimes we build stuff and don't complete it. Sometimes we build stuff, no one moves in, and we just waste it totally. And then when it gets old or dilapidated, we just tear it down, which is also part of construction and development, and just build it how we always built it before. That's development. So what is sustainable development? Well, this is in Copenhagen. This is energy work that's all renewable. This is some sustainable cities and parks that are verging on sustainability. Singapore. Austria, Switzerland. Sustainable development. It's an ecological economy. It's not just a regular economy. It's an ecological economy. And we also know how much it will cost from 2015 to 2030. It will cost 94 trillion US dollars. So only $5 trillion more. But don't get hung up on that only more, because it has a much better, longer-term outcome and is what we call the low-carbon scenario. Better materials, circular economy, sustainable concrete, sustainable construction, LEEDs, BREEAM, DNGB, green building, passive homes, better materials, more renewables, fewer resources, fewer emissions, and it's the lower carbon scenario. But it builds a foundation for a much longer term, better future. And that's why I tie it to evolution. Are you happy to go back and live in a cave? Are you happy not having clean water, sanitation, being in a fossil fuel future? But I could tell you thousands to hundreds of thousands examples in our world where our systems are f***ed up. We're stuck in the Stone Age. We didn't leave the Stone Age because we ran out of stones. We left the Stone Age because there's a better way to do things. And we're on this evolutionary journey to sustainable development. Now, is that the end goal? No, that's not the end goal. So these are the 17 sustainable development goals, and we were presented them very linear and lateral, and people like, oh, wow, okay. But guess what? Some people don't even know what these are. And some people who've talked about them don't even know what they are. They say, oh, number one, that's red, my favorite color, no poverty. That's the one I'm working on. I say, great. But did you know it's virtually impossible to work on one sustainable development goal and not touch on all the others? And did you know it's an ecological economy? It's an economy that replaces capitalism, GDP, growth. It's an ecological economy to get us to evolve to a better way of living. So now, I told you earlier, people say the SDGs are a Klaus Schwab conspiracy. They're a Klaus Schwab conspiracy so that we don't live better in the future? Don't you want to evolve, or are you happy with concrete jungles and heat and no renewable energy? Are you happy with our built environment the way it has been in the Industrial Revolution with lots of corruption? So that's why I did my own why, or manifesto. I wrote the Sustainable Development Goal Manifesto so that we could envision, if we reach all the Sustainable Development Goals, what does that world look like? How do we reach those, and how does that work? This is how we should look at the Sustainable Development Goals, like a pie or a wedding cake. But now, I talked to you about, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the inner development, right? The basic layers are breathing, food, water, sex, infrastructure, development. We can't evolve emotionally, physically, psychologically if we don't have our sustainable development, the regular development. If we don't have a roof over our head, we don't have running water, sanitation, then we can't meet our basic needs to develop innerly and go up Maslow's hierarchy needs. The Sustainable Development Goals are for us. And they all are tied to transformations. There are 6 major transformations in our world. We only talk about one, the digital revolution or the digital transformation. Now with AI, we talk about it a lot. But did you know there's 5 other major transformations to get out of the Anthropocene into the Symbiocene, into a new age or epoch that we have to go through to develop to? And all of them are tied to the Sustainable Development Goals. The monies come from this is the UN. I just wanted you to know that I didn't make up the $90 trillion needed for Sustainable Development Goals. That's $6 trillion a year. And it's here. High carbon scenario, regular development, sustainable developments, low carbon scenario. It's not perfect, it's not better, but it's a step on infrastructure in the right direction. This is COP26 Glasgow on the first week on Thursday. Mark Carney and Rishi Sunak committed $130 trillion towards the Sustainable Development Goals, towards sustainable development, climate finance. That's more than enough than $94 trillion, so with a little bit extra. But if we apply towards the SDGs, $1 towards the SDGs in nutrition, we get a $16 return. That's where I'm telling you it's a better business model. Life is a better business model. Regeneration, sustainability, this comes from Unilever. We could generate $12 trillion, $6 trillion more. So we could have some severe threats because of GDP, because of climate change, because of not moving to sustainable development. And we need to go to these regenerative futures. When people talk about KPIs or past performance indicators, you know it's bullshit. You know they're joking you. That's like saying, yeah, the triple bottom line, because their incremental growth will never get to the future because we never think about the future with KPIs. So if you're with someone at government politics and they say KPIs, you know they're bullshitting you. Trust in the power of future pull, the slingshot effect, the gravitational assist. Ignore conventional approaches and think beyond what common sense would allow. Quit trying harder and let's go into quantum leaps. And that comes from Price Pritchett. This is my professor, Herman Daly. He's the father of ecological economics. He wrote many books, but he talked about ecological economics and going beyond growth. Here are the classical old economic models. All the shitty ones that don't work. Capitalism, extractive, traditional, neoclassic, micro, macro. But did you know that there's more than 32 ecological economic models? And I know you can name 5 of them. Circular economy, donut economics, earth for all, regenerative economics. And I just told you the Sustainable Development Goals are an ecological economic model. So what the how are we living? What's our future? And I need to finish this because this part's not that vital, but this part is. We need to think when you throw it away that there is no way. We need to follow the golden rule and treat people and planet how we would like to be treated. This is something that we need to grow up on and realize about regeneration. It's 500 years old and it's actually 3.8 billion years old. Regeneration is how life on Earth started, and it's one of the oldest forms of living systems on our world, and it's how we get there. And that's the model where we will move forward. There was a study that I showed right before this. It's called the Handy Study. It was a study done by NASA that said how many civilizations have been in our world before. And NASA came back and they did the study twice, and they said there's been more than 72, but there's 32 core models. And they asked, why did they collapse, and what model were these civilizations running when they collapsed? That's early antiquity, Mesopotamia. There was 32 of these models. And they all collapsed, but 5 of them because of ecological or environmental collapse. But all 32 collapsed running the exact same model. And that model is a hierarchy model. And it never works. It's never worked. It's not sustainable. It's not regenerative. It's a bad model. And it will lead to collapse. And it doesn't lead to sustainable development and how we live on this earth. Everything I've tried to tell you is, when I talk about sustainability, when you talk about sustainability, when you talk about environment, I want you to realize that regeneration and regenerative means to create the conditions that are conducive to life, to thrive and flourish amid ever-changing life conditions. And we need to do that with how we live and how we evolve. And go from ego to eco to seva. Thank you so much, everyone. Sorry I took so much of your time.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for bringing this amazing